Welcome to our weekly program, The Inside Story of Chabad in America through the Mindel Archives. In Mitzvah Hashem, next week is Chov Bei Shvat. Chov Bei Shvat is the yahrzeit of the Rebbetzin Chayemushke. She passed away in the year 1988. So this program is in honor of Chov Bei Shvat. If we want to describe who the Rebbetzin was, there is a saying, Kvuda Bas Melech Penimo. The honor of the daughter of the king is within. And as it says in her Matzeva, she was a Isha Tzitkonius. She was considered like a Tzaddik Nister. She was hidden. Very humble, no unblitus, no fuss. And we know that we have, since she came to America in 1941, there is a famous picture of her, and that picture was taken by Manya's wedding, as we're going to speak about Manya soon, the nurse. And maybe there's another picture, but Bichlal, there's no pictures of her, because she was inside. She was an inside person. She was a very, very private person. Her biggest mile was that she gave the Rebbe to Chassidim. Meaning, the Rebbe was hardly home. Most of the time, the Rebbe was in 770. First of all, 3 times a week in the early years, then later it was twice a week, that the Rebbe had Yechidus. And we all know that Yechidus, the Rebbe's Yechidus, lasted till about 2, 3, even 4 in the morning. And then he went home and he came back right in the morning. Also, the Rebbe farbringt in the weekdays, he used to farbring in the halls. He used to farbring, this was Yud Kislev, Purim, farbringing his word till 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. Shabbosim, he also farbringed in the summertime, he used to farbring till about 4 o'clock. Then he went home and he came back after an hour or 2. In the winter, sometimes the Rebbe farbringed till Mincha and Ma'ariv, he never even went home. So the Rebbe was hardly home. And of course we know the month of Tishrei, how busy the Rebbe was. Erev Yom Kippur used to stand all day to give lekach. Erev Eishayna Rabbe used to stand all day to give lekach. He was busy. And how many times did the Rebbe go to the Ehel for hours and hours and hours? So he was hardly home. So the Rebbetzin was always, Bichlal, she was alone. But he had permission. In other words, the Rebbetzin encouraged the Rebbe to go to the Chassidim. This is her biggest mile. Now, other Rebbetzins, for example, Rebbetzin Rivke. Rebbetzin Rivke was at home. The Yechidus was in the house. The farbringen of the Rebbes were in the house. Rebbetzin Chane, the Rebbe's mother, went to shul. She even went, I think, to a parade. But she had Chassidim. She was with Chassidim. The Rebbetzin was alone. The Rebbe's Yechidus was also a long time. Other Rebbes was an hour, 2, not like the Rebbes. The farbringen were also, was farbringen Yud Kislev, there was farbringen Purim, there was a farbringen Simchas Torah, but it was all not that many hours. So the Rebbe was always busy with the Chassidim. And this is her biggest credit, that she led the Rebbe. She gave the Rebbe would not do it without her rishus. She gave the Rebbe to Chassidim. Now, speaking about Yechidus, I want to mention, I heard there was the Rebbe Maharash, but my father-in-law told me that the Freidike Rebbe, after Yechidus, his daughter helped him take off his sirtuk and his shirt, and the undershirt was wet, sweat. So she asked the Rebbe, the Freidike Rebbe, why is it so wet? I mean, when you sit by Yechidus, people come in, you're sitting, you don't look excited. Why is it wet? So the Frierdiker Rebbe told her that Yechidus, the reason I'm wet, I'm sweating, is because when a person walks in, darf man sich anton in ganzen in dimension. In other words, he dresses himself in that person. The only thing in the world is that person. Then when that person walks out and another person walks in, so he has to undress himself from that person and he has to dress himself completely to the person that comes in. This is why he's sweating. This is a Maimon Muzger. Going back to the Rebbetzin, she had people that was with her, they were close to her. But what does it mean, close? Close, for example, I remember Sukkot, the Rebbetzin called my home, and she wanted to speak to Mrs. Mindel, and she asked her that maybe she can come visit her. This was the last Sukkot, the last Shiner Rabbi, it was before Chav B'Shvat, the last one she was in the library. Maybe come visit me with your daughter, with my wife. So they went to visit her there. They sat for an hour. She was close, but is that really close? There are people that were closer. People that maybe spoke to the Rebbetzin a couple times a week, a few times a week. Or maybe they called the Rebbetzin. They went to visit. It's called a visit. But the only one that I think that was the closest to the Rebbetzin was Manya, the Rebbe's nurse. The Rebbetzin Stern nurse and the Frierdiker Rebbe's. She was like a sister to the Rebbetzin Chaya Mushke. Manya, as we spoke in the previous programs, Manya was a nurse. She was married then for the Frierdiker Rebbe in 1939 in Riga. The Frierdiker Rebbe asked her to come to be a nurse for his mother, Rebbetzin Stein Nesore, to come to America. So she came to America. She lived upstairs in 770 with the Mishpacha. And the Rebbetzin Chaya Mushke did not live there. She lived a few blocks away. But she came every day to visit her mother, her sister. So she became close to Manya. Manya was like a sister. And when the Frierdiker Rebbe gave presents every Yontif to his daughters, before Pesach, before Shavuos, before Sukkot, he gave a present also Manya. So Manya was part of the family. The Frierdiker Rebbe, as we know, gave her the coat, as we spoke already, and she gave me the present, the coat that the Frierdiker Rebbe gave her. In other words, they were like, she was part of the family. She was very, very close to Rebbetzin Chaya Mushke. The Frierdiker Rebbe, made the Shidduch, and after that, she moved to Long Beach. So she lived in Long Beach. She spoke to the Rebbetzin on the phone for many hours, every single day. She went to visit. She was in the house very, very often. She sat for hours and hours. Now, I mentioned once a story of speaking about the Rebbetzin, about Manya. Manya, living in Long Beach, this was a Yud Shvat. This was, I think, 2 years after I was married. She asked Rabbi Mindel, since you're going to Fabring in Yud Shvat, I want to go see the Rebbetzin, so maybe drop me off by the Rebbetzin, and afterwards, after Fabring, you'll pick me up. It's fine. He dropped her off by the Rebbetzin. He came to my home. He left the car here. He went to Fabringen. Those days, the Rebbe Fabringed very late, till about 2:30 at night. After Fabringen, he comes here. He asked me for a favor. Maybe I can take the car, go to the Rebbetzins house, pick up Manya, bring her here, and you'll take her back to Long Beach. So I took the car. I went to the Rebbetzin. I knocked on the door. She opened the door, and I said, "I'm here to pick up Manya." So she made like this. Just a moment. She went to tell her. She went to tell Manya that somebody is here to pick her up. So while Manya was getting ready, she came to the door, and I was there. She says, "Come in." I was a young man. I was there maybe 24, 25 years old. Come in. Spoke about the family. Maybe I want something. And I was nervous. I had something in my pocket, an envelope of money. And I lost the envelope. I don't have it anymore. I don't know what happened. So I was nervous. So she said, "You look a little nervous." I said, I used the lotion, "I hope I didn't leave anything here." So she smiled to me and she said, "Of course you left. You left a very good impression." This is the Rebbetzin. So Manya, before she went to Eretz Yisrael, the Rebbetzin did not like her to go to Eretz Yisrael because she said, "You're like my sister, and you know, going to Eretz Yisrael, you don't come back too often." So this is Manya. Manya was very close. Manya told us that the Rebetzin's character and her devotion to the Rebbe was something that we cannot describe. This is what Manya told us. She was very, very close to the Rebbetzin. She was the closest, I think, like a sister. So as a side point of interest, we have here letters that the Rebbe wrote on behalf of the Rebbetzin. You know, the Rebbetzin, I mean, people don't know, I guess, she was a Bahaltere. People, she had issues, she had medical issues for quite a few. There's a lot of letters that the Rebbe wrote to doctors on behalf of the Rebbetzin. Some letters we have in the letter of spirit, but some we don't. So here I found a letter that the Rebbe wrote to a doctor on behalf of Rebbetzin Chaim Mushke. And I want to read to you this letter, and we can learn a lesson from this letter. The letter was written to a doctor in Central Park West. This was written in Shvat. Okay. Greeting and blessing. This is, first of all, to convey to you in behalf of Mrs. Schneerson and myself our sincere appreciation of your very kind attention in connection with Mrs. Schneerson's recent mishap, responding promptly to a house call at an inconvenient hour, in addition to giving her your professional expertise and skill. There is certainly no need to emphasize to you how much the physician's personal interest and sincere attention means to the patient, especially as it is also a significant factor in the curative process. Indeed, as you rightly observed during our conversation, the human intellect has a controlling influence on the whole organism, and the mental state affects the healing process. And you know that the Rebbe always says you should go to a Refa Yedid, and the warmth of a doctor to the patient has to do with the healing process, which the Rebbe wrote many letters about that. But maybe another time we'll read the other letters that the Rebbe wrote to different doctors. We also thank you in anticipation of your continued interest and help. I hope and pray that Hashem, the healer of all flesh, who works wondrously, will bless you with Hatzlacha in the treatment of all your patients, including the present one. I have had occasion to hear from my father-in-law of saintly memory, and the idea has its place in the Torah called Torah's Chaim, that in the interest of successful medical treatment, the pay has to meet the physician's professional standing. Indeed, the same principles applies in all professions and service, including community services. Needless to say, my father-in-law practiced that principle, and I wish to do the same. Meaning, when you pay a doctor, the doctor, that gives the doctor, inspires the doctor to be closer, to do a better job with the patient. Now, in other words, you have to pay. This reminds me, and maybe I've mentioned it once, but I can always mention it again. We come from Cleveland. My parents lived in Cleveland. I grew up in Cleveland. So in Cleveland, there's a Litvische yeshiva, Telze yeshiva. The Bachrim from Telz used to, B'tzoi Shabbos, sie haben sich herausgegangen wird. Rosh Yeshivas did not know. But late Motzei Shabbos, they had about 2 or 3 cars. Bachrim wanted to learn Chassidus. And the Rosh Yeshivas did not know, and they didn't want him to know. So they came with taxis to my father, or also to my Zayde, Rebbe Zalman Vilenkin. He was the Rebbe's teacher when the Rebbe was a young boy, and he lived also in Cleveland. So they came to learn Chassidus Mitzvah Shabbos. From Telz till our home was probably a distance of maybe 40 minutes drive. It's pretty expensive. And the Bachrim spent money, but they didn't have money. They came over to my father and he said, please, we don't have money we want to come to learn Chassidus, and it's a Mesiras Nefesh that we do, but we can't pay the taxis. So Rabbi Reitschik was there at our home then, Rabbi Reitschik from California. So Rabbi Reitschik was saying to my father, maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to raise money and to pay them to learn Chassidus. My father did not agree with that. So Rabbi Reitschik said, you know what? You're going into Yechidus to the Rebbe, ask the Rebbe. So my father went to Yechidus a month later, and he asked the Rebbe, he told the Rebbe that the Bachim learned Chassidus, and he told the Rebbe the Mesiras Nefesh, and they want to get paid. So the Rebbe says, B'zeh haloshen, Chassidus darf sich nicht aroplosen a sehr niederig, and wir soll noch zuzahlen lernen Chassidus. Chassidus doesn't have to lower itself so low that we should pay to learn Chassidus. If they want to learn Chassidus, they'll find a way. And the Rebbe did not agree that we should raise money for that. And my father told them that, it's, if you want to learn, so they found a way. So this is when you pay for something. It reminds me, once Rabbi Hecht, I worked in Long Beach, and Rabbi Hecht came to a dinner there, and he told me once, Rabbi J.J. Hecht, Olav Sholom, so I worked for the National Committee. I had a camp there, at the Chabad. So he told me once, he told the Rebbe that he gave out the hundreds of matzahs before Pesach for free. So he thought the Rebbe would be very happy. So the Rebbe said, for free? He said, yeah. He said, no, maybe not everybody will eat the matzah by the Seder. Maybe they'll eat the matzah before Pesach. If they pay for it, they feel that they paid for it, they'll eat by the Seder. But if not, they might eat the matzah before Pesach. So we see how important it is to pay. Now let's go to this, finish that letter. Therefore, I am taking the liberty of enclosing herewith my check. And though I am not certain whether it is the right fee, but I trust that if it is inadequate, you will have your secretary call my secretary in order to enable me to rectify the matter. Accompanying it is the tradition Jewish blessing, Faditz Gesundheit, to use it in good health. One of the basic reasons for the set principle is that the Torah is mindful of the fact that the physician or other professional has personal financial obligations to his family and community, which he can meet adequately if his services are adequately paid. If a patient fails to meet the professional fee expected of him, a thought might occur to the physician that he might postpone attending to this patient next time in favor of one who will come up to his expectations. Therefore, the Torah seeks to eliminate the possibility of any such thought, so that whatever the professional services which a person is privileged by the divine providence to perform in behalf of others, it will be always performed with his wholehearted dedication. Many thanks again, and the Rebbe signs his name. Now the Rebbe writes 3 lines, a P.S. Since dictating this letter, the official bill was received, and check is enclosed. But as emphasized, this is official business, whereas this letter and check that goes with it is on a personal basis, as a token of deeper personal relationship that transcends the official doctor-patient relationship. Now, l'chura, this is a Pashita letter, but this letter, I think we can learn out a lot from this letter. We can learn first of all, we can learn out about that you have to pay, it's important to pay, and also about a doctor to have a Roife Yedid. So may the stories and the historical facts of our program inspire to a stronger commitment to Torah mitzvahs and the spreading of the Rebbe's Chassidus. And in Mitzvah Hashem, next Thursday night, we'll continue our weekly program. Thank you.